Have you ever wondered what secrets whisper through the ruins of ancient Greece when the world finally goes quiet? As you settle in, imagine stepping into a night where myths breathe, shadows move gently, and the old gods linger just out of sight. Stay with me. This story unfolds softly, and it's meant just for you. Hey guys, tonight we drift into a place where myth and moonlight blend so softly, you can't quite tell where history ends and imagination begins. You find yourself standing at the edge of the Aegean Sea, the sky above you fading into deep cobalt. A thin breeze brushes your cheek, warm at first, then cooling just enough to remind you that the ancient world, for all its poetry, didn't come with central heating. Waves lap against worn stones, and for a moment you feel as if they're whispering names, fragments, something half-forgotten. And honestly, you probably won't survive this journey if you're expecting it to be predictable, because nothing about ancient Greece is ever straightforward. Not the gods, not the history, and definitely not the people who decided olive oil was a perfectly reasonable shampoo substitute. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, tell me where you are watching from and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing the map of sleepy wanderers growing night after night. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the shoreline as twilight settles, feeling the whole landscape shift into something older, something quieter. The Aegean night awakens, not with noise but with presence. You hear gulls in the distance, calling once, then drifting away as if they understand this hour belongs to stories deeper than theirs. Your feet sink slightly into cool sand. The scent of salt, figs from a nearby grove, and worn cedar from fishermen's boats reminds you how timeless this place is. If someone told you a citizen of ancient Miletus once stood exactly where you're standing, trying to figure out whether jellyfish were an omen or just annoying, you'd believe it. The first thing you notice is how still everything becomes. The sun dips past the horizon, spreading its last streaks of gold over water that soon turns to liquid shadow. Your breathing naturally slows. It's funny, modern science says rhythmic waves can reduce your cortisol levels, and here you are, experiencing exactly that, even though ancient Greeks didn't need peer-reviewed studies to understand the sea could calm a restless mind. They simply knew it. They lived beside it, trusted it, feared it, worshipped it. And tonight, you're borrowing their world. Behind you, olive trees sway softly, their silver-green leaves catching the last light like tiny mirrors. A single lantern hangs from a wooden post not far away, its flame flickering in a way that feels intentional, as if it's calling you inward. The air grows just cool enough to make you draw your cloak, or realistically your blanket a little closer. Somewhere, a nocturnal bird chirps, briefly breaking the silence before yielding to the steady rhythm of waves once more. You begin to walk along the shore, and each step presses gently into damp sand. Your footprints trail behind you, imperfect and temporary, like all mortal things. One joke for your journey. If you were an ancient Greek, this is the part where you'd assume you were being followed by a minor sea deity who just wants to borrow your sandals. But you're safe. Absolutely safe. The only thing following you is the soft glow of moonlight stretching over the sea. As you continue, a quiet realization settles in. You're not simply observing history tonight. You're moving through it. The line between now and then blurs. Historians still argue whether certain myths originated as attempts to explain real natural phenomena. Strange weather, volcanic rumblings, unexpected tides. But standing here, you understand why myth and reality were never rivals in Greece. They were partners, two hands shaping one world. A gentle wind drifts past you, carrying a scent like crushed time. You look up and see the first stars piercing through the darkening sky. The early Greeks believed these lights were once heroes granted eternal place above, though mainstream historians explain them a bit more mathematically. Still, as the stars shimmer, it's easy to imagine them as watchful eyes, calm and ancient, observing your quiet steps. A quirky historical tidbit crosses your mind. Somewhere in a village not unlike this one, centuries ago, someone probably tried to predict the future by listening to sea foam. Not waves, foam. And you know what? It It probably worked just as well as half the astrology predictions you've read online. You smile at the thought, the quiet joke easing into the gentle night around you. The lantern on the post fades behind you as you walk further along the beach. The moon swells overhead, bright but soft, like a pearl suspended in ink. You feel its glow tracing the edge of your jaw, illuminating the sand in a pale silver path. This is the hour when myths begin to stir. Not loudly, not like in the tales where gods arrive in bursts of thunder, but subtly, the way a dream forms before you even notice you've fallen asleep. To your left, ancient stones rise from the ground, ruins of what might have been a small shrine. Weathered columns lean as if sharing secrets with the wind. You move closer, brushing your fingers along cool marble. These stones have seen centuries of offerings. Figs, wine, olive oil, maybe a few objects someone threw in because they misunderstood the assignment entirely. What matters is the reverence, the belief. You feel it even now, faint but steady. Somewhere in the distance, a gentle splash interrupts the quiet. You don't see the source, but you imagine a fish leaping for a moment, catching a glimmer of moonlight before disappearing again. The ancients might have interpreted that as a sign from the gods, depending on the fish, the splash, the season, and whether or not they'd had a decent lunch. Their world was woven from signs and symbols, and tonight, you sense a little of that magic returning. You take a slow breath, letting your shoulders drop. The night holds you like a warm, deep exhale. You notice how the sounds blend. The whispering tide, the faint rustle of olive branches, the distant pulse of nighttime insects. Everything moves together, unhurried. It's the perfect backdrop for the myths that are about to rise, soft and ancient, from the darkness around you. And as you stand there, still, calm, ready, you feel it. The Aegean night awakening fully, inviting you deeper into the beginning of all Greek stories. You step away from the quiet shoreline, letting the rhythm of the waves fade into the background as another sound takes shape. Something softer, older, almost like breath moving through stone. The air shifts, and you sense the presence of beings far more ancient than the Olympians most people remember. This is where the first whispers begin, drifting through the darkness like threads of sound that never quite become words. You follow them, not because they call to you loudly, but because they pull gently, the way sleep tugs at your thoughts when your eyes grow heavy. A faint glow rises ahead, not fire, not moonlight, something more like the soft shimmer of creation itself. You walk toward it, and the world around you changes. The beach dissolves into a vast, formless expanse. No sky overhead, no earth beneath your feet. Just a quiet, swirling darkness that feels strangely welcoming. This is chaos. Not chaos as in the messy laundry pile in your room, but chaos as the Greeks meant it. A yawning openness, a soft cosmic nothingness. Historians still argue whether the early Greek idea of chaos meant literal emptiness or a deep, fertile potential. But standing here, you understand why it could mean both. Feels like a dream waiting to be dreamed. From that stillness, something stirs. A warmth gathers, subtle at first, then spreading like a glow beneath the skin of the universe. You feel it coalesce into a presence. Gaia, Earth, the first solidness, the first foundation. You perceive her not as a figure, but as a feeling. Steady, patient, powerful in her quietness. A bedrock forming under your feet, turning chaos into something you can stand on. You never thought you'd get sentimental about the birth of a planet, but here you are, appreciating Gaia like she just gave you a warm blanket and a cup of tea. Above you, or perhaps within you, another presence forms. Eros. Not the winged cherub people mistakenly turn him into later, but the primordial force of attraction, the spark that brings things together. This isn't romantic love. This is the cosmic glue that encourages things to connect, to bind, to grow. It flows past you like a warm breeze, carrying a faint hum. You can't help thinking that if ancient Greeks had access to Bluetooth technology, they'd probably say Eros was responsible for that too. It's all about connection, right? Gradually, the darkness around you softens. Shapes emerge, mountains rising from Gaia's surface, their silhouettes carved against a newborn sky. Rivers begin to thread across the land like silver veins. You watch as the world takes its first slow breath. There's something oddly peaceful about witnessing creation at this pace. No explosions, no dramatic orchestral soundtrack. Just a calm unfolding, layer by layer, like someone making a bed with unreasonable precision. You step forward, feeling the ground under your feet solidify. It's cool, textured, familiar in a way that feels impossible, like remembering a place you've never been. The air vibrates softly, and two more ancient beings appear at the edges of your awareness. Nyx and Erebus, night and darkness. They drift past like twin shadows, serene and elegant, their presence brushing your skin like the flutter of moth wings. A quirky historical tidbit comes to mind. Some early Greek poems described Nyx as so powerful that even Zeus, king of the gods, respected her more than he would admit. Night outranking thunder makes you rethink your childhood fear of the dark. Maybe you were onto something. The whispers you've been following gather again, but now they split, turning into two voices or two currents that shape the next part of creation. One feels heavy, deep, fertile Tartarus, an underworld not yet filled but waiting patiently, a vast cavern of potential like a seed planted in the soil. The other feels light, bright, expanding, ether, the upper air, the shimmering layer the gods themselves would one day breathe. You lift your head and sense ether glowing faintly overhead, subtle but radiant. The Greeks believed mortals breathed regular air, just good old atmosphere, but the gods inhaled the ether, the purest, brightest sky. You can't help but think that's basically the ancient equivalent of having the premium air subscription. You continue walking, moving through layers of early existence as if strolling through a museum exhibit curated by the universe. The ground warms beneath you as more shapes form. Vast plains, sloping valleys, rocky cliffs. A soft rumble echoes through the earth, gentle but insistent, like a distant heartbeat. Then another figure forms, not in appearance but in impact. Pontus, the sea. He spreads across Gaia's surface, not rushing in but rolling out smoothly, like ink on parchment. You feel the world settling into balance. Earth, sea, sky, darkness, night, depth, love. They've all emerged, and each piece feels essential. It's like the universe is assembling a puzzle without the picture on the box, but somehow still getting every piece right. A soft breeze sweeps by, carrying the scent of minerals and fresh water. Maybe creation had a smell after all. As you move, you notice something shifting at the edge of your vision. Shapes rise from Gaia, beings who are neither gods nor humans, but something in between. The first generations of divine children. Among them are the Urea, the mountains, tall, silent presences that anchor the horizon. The ancient Greeks believed the mountains themselves were divine children of Gaia, not just big rocks, and honestly, that gives hiking a much more intimidating backstory. Beside them, other forces form. Rivers personified as gods, breezes given names, natural features treated like relatives at a family gathering. The early Greeks didn't see the natural world as separate from the divine. They lived with it, in it, surrounded by it. Historians still debate whether these personifications were originally metaphors or literal beliefs, but walking among them now, you sense how naturally the boundaries blurred. You take a few steps deeper into this newborn landscape. The ground is smooth and warm, almost like clay that has just begun to cool. The light above shifts between gold and deep violet. You feel creation settling, the way a long exhale settles into the body after a day of tension. Your footsteps echo lightly, as if the world is still getting used to holding sound. A small, private smile crosses your face as you think about one more odd bit of lore. Some ancient Greeks believed the universe hatched from a cosmic egg laid by a primordial bird. A giant bird, laying an egg the size of existence. If that's not a whimsical origin story, nothing is. But here, surrounded by the unfolding of chaos into cosmos, it somehow doesn't feel strange. Feels fitting. Life, creation, stories, all of them start somewhere. The whispers that guided you here fade into a warm hum. The shapes around you settle, firm but gentle. You stand in the newly formed world, feeling its heartbeat align with your own. You sense the next generation rising, the titans who will shape the world before the Olympians ever walk it. But for now, you stay here in the quiet beginning, enveloped by the whispers of the first gods. You feel the newborn world settle beneath your feet, its warmth fading into a deeper, older stillness. The hum that guided you through the formation of chaos and Gaia quiets into something heavier, like a distant drumbeat muffled under layers of earth. The air shifts again, this time carrying a faint vibration you can feel more than hear. Pulses through the ground, steady and ancient. You sense you're being led downward, toward the beings who shaped the world before the Olympians ever claimed their thrones. The titans wait beneath the surface, not angry, not restless, just present, like mountains dreaming in the dark. The light above you dims as a crack opens in the earth, not violently but gently, like a curtain parting. You descend a slope carved from smooth stone, illuminated only by a soft glow that seems to come from within the rock itself. The temperature drops, cool but comforting, the way a cave feels after the heat of a long afternoon. As you walk, the air thickens with the sense of vast presences slumbering just beyond your sight. You step into a cavern enormous enough that your footsteps disappear into silence instead of echoing. This cavern isn't the underworld, though it almost feels like it. It's something older, the cradle of the titans, Gaia's children, the beings who molded the earliest mountains, rivers, and skies. Historians still argue whether the titans were originally seen as literal deities or poetic personifications of natural forces. But here in the half-dark, they feel like both at once, solid as stone, yet humming with awareness. The first presence you sense is Oceanus. Not water, not waves, something more like the idea of water before water fully existed. A vast circle of calm motion surrounds the cavern. As if you're standing beside the world river the Greeks believed encircled the earth. Oceanus feels patient, steady, content to flow forever. You imagine he'd be the type to give great life advice, though probably only in riddles involving currents and tides. Not far from him you feel Tethys, his counterpart, serene and nurturing. Her presence feels like cool rain soaking into thirsty soil. If Oceanus is the endless river, Tethys is the quiet magic of freshwater springs. A quirky bit of myth drifts into your mind. Some ancient Greeks believed Tethys was responsible for teaching humans how to nurse their young, an unexpectedly tender origin for a primordial goddess. You picture her politely offering early humans a how-to-baby lecture, and the thought makes you smile. You walk deeper into the cavern, your steps slow and careful. Massive shapes rise around you, faintly glowing in muted bronze, gold, and deep green hues. They aren't statues, though they look carved. They aren't sleeping, though they're perfectly still. These are the titans in their quiet, primordial form. You feel their identities more than you see them. Hyperion, whose presence radiates like a slow sunrise. Thea, shimmering beside him with the soft glow of dawn. Ceus, whose energy feels like deep thought forming in the dark. And Phoebe, ancient intellect wrapped in moonlit calm. They feel neither hostile nor welcoming. They simply are strong, immense, unmoving except for that slow pulse in the stone around you. The cavern feels like a heartbeat chamber, the core of a world that's still settling into its new shape. Your gaze shifts toward the far end of the cavern where the air thickens, almost trembling. Cronus is there, the youngest of the titans, yet somehow the heaviest presence. His energy feels compressed, coiled, like a storm held inside a sealed jar. But it's not anger, not yet. It's something more complicated. Ambition mingled with fear, potential balancing on a knife's edge. Above you, a crack of light streaks across the ceiling like a star trapped underground. You sense Uranus, the sky, still lingering, stretched across the world above, keeping the titans beneath him. This ancient tension vibrates through the stone. The Greeks told stories of Uranus pressing the titans down into Gaia's depths, refusing to let them move freely. Whether the tale is literal or metaphorical, historians still debate. But here, the cavern feels slightly too tight, as if the titans have outgrown their confinement. You pause, letting the cool air settle around your shoulders. Another presence stirs nearby, one that feels strangely gentle despite its power. Rhea. Her energy flows like warmth between cold stones, soothing, balancing the tension in the chamber. She is patience incarnate, a quiet strength that anchors the Titan's raw might. You feel her presence move like a soft breeze behind you, brushing your spine with reassurance. You walk between these immense beings, feeling their stories hum under your skin. The cavern is vast, but the Titan's presence makes it feel intimate, like being inside a giant's chest while it sleeps. Every breath you take feels shared with the stone, with the earth, with the myth itself. A small rumble trembles through the floor. It isn't threatening, more like a reminder that these beings shaped the world long before Olympian politics turned myths into soap operas. The ancient Greeks believed earthquakes were caused by Poseidon, but before him, the Titans were likely the imagined source of every tremor, every sudden shift in land. You imagine a Titan rolling over in their sleep and an entire mountain range forming by accident. Accidentally creating a mountain is the kind of problem only a primordial deity could have. As you continue, you notice a faint hum rising from deeper in the earth. It resonates in your ribs like a quiet chant. This is Tartarus, the deepest abyss, the place where some Titans will one day be imprisoned. But right now, it's simply another layer of this immense world, dark, patient, waiting. Historians still argue whether Tartarus was originally seen as a place or a primordial being, and frankly, after standing near this humming abyss, you understand why nobody can agree. Feels alive, but also like a location, a mood, a weight, a whisper. You take a few more steps, and suddenly the cavern opens further, revealing a wide shelf of stone that overlooks a deep chasm glowing faintly red, as though lit from within. It's not fire. It's something more abstract, like the glow of potential energy before it becomes reality. You stand at the edge, feeling the ancient power rising like breath from below. A strange thought crosses your mind. Somewhere, thousands of years ago, a Greek poet was sitting under a fig tree making all this up, probably with no idea how thoroughly future generations would overthink it. You're grateful, though a world without these myths would feel strangely empty. The cavern begins to shift, not physically but atmospherically, as if the Titan's attention drifts. Their story is about to change. The world above calls to them, and the Olympians wait in the wings, still young, still distant. But here in this moment, the Titans are simply themselves, ancient, immense, powerful, and quietly dreaming beneath the earth. You breathe in the cool air, feeling the deep pulse of the cavern slow, matching your own. The whispers fade, but the weight of the Titans remains, steady as stone. You step back from the edge of the Titan cavern, letting the ancient hum fade into a gentler vibration beneath your feet. The air begins to warm again, subtly at first, then with a growing clarity, as though the world above is calling you upward. The stone slope behind you seems to rise on its own, lifting you toward the surface. It doesn't feel like climbing, more like floating through layers of time, drifting from the era of primordial beings into the age of younger, sharper, rising voices. These are not the whispers of chaos or the deep resonance of Titans. These are new sounds, fiercer, brighter, hungrier. The Olympian voices begin to stir. A faint breeze touches your cheek as you emerge, carrying the sharp scent of alpine pines. You blink against the sudden brightness. You're standing on the lower slopes of a massive mountain, steep, jagged, ancient. Its summit vanishing into thick silver clouds. Mount Olympus. It rises like a pillar between worlds, a gateway between earth and sky. And tonight, you're not looking at the grand throne room it will one day become. This is Olympus before its prime, wild, untamed, and echoing with the energy of young gods on the edge of destiny. You start walking upward. The path is narrow, carved not by human hands but by time itself. Loose stones scatter under your feet, but each step feels guided, as if the mountain expects you. The air is thinner here, cooler, carrying a faint metallic scent like lightning waiting inside a cloud. A quirky thought occurs to you. If you were an ancient Greek shepherd wandering this mountain, you'd probably be terrified of every rumble of thunder, convinced Zeus was either bowling or having a dramatic argument with a sibling. Given how many arguments the myths describe, the second option seems more likely. As you climb higher, the atmosphere shifts. The world becomes quieter, not empty, but focused, like the mountain is holding its breath. You hear faint, distant murmurs, too soft to be words but too intentional to be wind. These are the Olympian voices, not yet fully formed but undeniably present. They feel lighter than the Titans, sharper, almost electric, like sparks before a fire. A slender shape moves at the edge of your vision. You turn and see a young figure in bronze light. Not a god yet, but a presence. It flickers between form and energy, the way a dream figure feels real and unreal at the same time. You sense youth, confidence, and an eagerness that borders on impatience. This presence hums with potential. You don't know the name yet, not until the myths catch up, but this is one of the early Olympians waiting for the moment destiny lets them step into their story. Nearby, another presence flickers, calmer, older-souled, wrapped in a soft silver glow. The energy feels steady, thoughtful, almost protective. You sense Hera's early essence here, not yet fully grown into her role but already carrying the weight of future oaths and responsibilities. Her voice, faint and distant, feels like a thread tying the young pantheon together, not with force but with intention. You continue climbing, the path winding like a serpent across the mountain face. A warm gust of wind brushes past you, carrying the scent of fresh rain. It crackles faintly, as if laced with static. Lightning, but not yet a storm. You know instinctively who that energy belongs to, even before his name forms. Zeus, not the kingly, bearded throne-sitter sculpted in temples centuries later. This is the younger Zeus, fiery, ambitious, rising from secrecy toward revolution. Historians still argue whether Zeus's mythic overthrow of Cronus reflects ancient political shifts in Greek society. But as the wind tightens around you like an inhaled breath, the story feels too personal, too vibrant, to be just metaphor. A soft rumble answers from far above. Not thunder, not yet, just a promise of thunder. You continue upward. The path grows steeper, but the air lifts you, lightens you, nudging you toward a ridge overlooking a valley swallowed in clouds. The sky here is a deep violet, streaked with gold like someone spilled sunlight and didn't bother to clean it up. The voices grow clearer, not words, but tones. Zeus's rising like a storm tuning itself. Hera's steady and tempered. Poseidon's rumbling like distant surf. Hades's presence silent but heavy, felt more than heard. Each voice has a different texture, a different temperature, a different rhythm. They overlap, intermingle, circle one another like planets forming their orbits. You find a smooth boulder near the ridge and sit for a moment, letting the scene settle into you. The air tastes like raw potential, like the world is halfway between the old and the new. You sense the tension of transition, the Titans ruling from one layer of existence, the Olympians gathering power in another. Between them is a silent gap filled with anticipation. The Greeks understood this feeling deeply. Their myths often come alive at moments of transition. Dusk, dawn, crossroads, thresholds. And here you are at a threshold of cosmic proportions. A thin mist drifts across the ridge, brushing your arms like cool silk. It swirls into shapes. A bird with wide wings, a winding path, a hand reaching up, before dissolving back into air. You realize the mountain itself seems to be dreaming, absorbing the energy of the gods before giving it back to the sky. No wonder the Greeks imagined Olympus as both a place and a divine presence. Historians still debate whether Olympus was always a literal mountain or originally a symbolic cosmic peak. But sitting here, you feel how easily it could be both. Suddenly, a soft glow appears on the path ahead, brightening like an ember fanned by breath. A small figure emerges, flickering with golden-white radiance. Young Hestia. Her presence feels warm, comforting, like sitting beside the first fire ever lit. You sense her curiosity, her gentle vigilance, her role as the future keeper of hearth and home. She doesn't speak, but her quiet energy fills the space around you with a calm that balances the stormier voices rising elsewhere on the mountain. A quiet joke drifts into your mind. If these young gods were siblings in a modern family, Hestia would definitely be the only responsible one, the one telling everyone else not to burn the house down. Literally. You stand and continue up the path, leaving the ridge behind. The voices gather more clearly now. They aren't talking to you, not directly, but you feel their presence pressing lightly at the edges of your awareness. They are rising, testing their power, stretching into new identities the way young trees stretch their branches toward sunlight. The wind sharpens, and you feel the first true spark of lightning above you. Not striking, just forming, curling inside a cloud like a heartbeat preparing for a louder rhythm. The Olympians are beginning to claim their place in the world. Young, determined, unpredictable. The mountain vibrates with their emerging power. And as you stand on the final ledge before the clouds swallow the peak, you feel it fully. The rise of Olympian voices, clear and bright, ready to shift the balance of myth itself. You step into the clouds at the peak without hesitation, letting the cool mist wrap around you like a veil. The air here is different, thinner, sharper, charged with a restless electricity you can almost taste on your tongue. It feels like the moment before a storm breaks, when the sky holds its breath and the world pauses, waiting. And in the center of that suspended breath, you sense him. Zeus, not yet the grand fatherly figure from sculptures and textbooks, but the rising force behind every rumble you've heard so far. The storm within him is gathering, not out of anger but out of destiny. You walk toward that hum, feeling the air thicken with power. The clouds part slowly, revealing a plateau of smooth, pale stone. Lightning flickers above, thin and restless, like silver threads stitching the sky. The ground vibrates faintly under your feet, gentle, rhythmic pulses that mirror the energy building in the air. At the far end of the plateau, a young, bright presence stands at the heart of it all. Zeus. His form flickers at first, shifting between the glow of lightning and the shape of a determined figure. You see broad strokes of youth in him, the sharp confidence, the intensity, the sense of purpose that feels too large for a single body. He doesn't speak, at least not in words. Instead, his presence sends a ripple through the clouds, a warm surge of electricity that brushes your skin like static. You don't flinch. There's no threat here, just raw potential. The kind of power that could reshape the world or break it, depending on the choices made in the chapters ahead. A soft rumble echoes across the plateau, low and rolling, like thunder practicing its scales. Zeus lifts a hand, not fully, just enough to steady the energy around him. The rumble quiets. You can almost imagine him giving the thunder a subtle phage gesture, the way someone might quiet an overeager dog. It's oddly charming, and you suspect that if Zeus ever kept pets, they'd be dramatic, loud, and absolutely adored. You walk closer, feeling the storm's heartbeat grow stronger. Each pulse vibrates through the stone, into your feet, up your spine. The Greeks believe Zeus controlled thunder and lightning, but this moment feels more delicate than that. It does not control, its partnership. The sky responds to him. The air adjusts around him. Historians still argue whether Zeus's power over storms originated from earlier weather god traditions in the region, or if he simply absorbed the symbolic role over centuries of worship. But standing here, it feels like the connection was inevitable. Lightning and Zeus fit together naturally, like breath and movement. The clouds swirl around you, their edges glowing faintly. A sudden gust of wind whips past, carrying droplets of cold moisture that cling to your hair, your clothes, your skin. It's refreshing in a sharp, bracing way. You pull your cloak, or blanket, tighter around your shoulders. Zeus notices, or at least his energy shifts as though acknowledging your small human need for warmth amid divine weather theatrics. A thin arc of lightning coils above him like a curious serpent, then dissolves into the sky. Your footsteps echo faintly as you approach a stone ledge overlooking the valley far below. Lightning illuminates the world for a moment, revealing forests, rivers, distant hills, landscapes molded under the watch of titans, now waiting for new rulers. Zeus steps beside you, or rather his presence does, and you feel the storm inside him settle into a deeper, more grounded rhythm, as though he's aware of the world beneath him, aware of the responsibility he's growing into. You watch another flicker of lightning arc across the sky, and you can't help thinking how ancient Greeks must have felt watching the same phenomenon without any scientific explanation. You imagine a traveler sheltering under a fig tree, eyes wide, whispering prayers to the heavens every time the sky cracked open. And then you picture someone else insisting, loudly, that lightning meant Zeus was flirting with someone again. Perfectly valid theory, honestly. Another rumble rolls across the plateau. This one deeper, more resonant. Zeus closes his hand gently, and the sky answers with a settling hush. You feel something shift in him, not power, not ambition, but awareness. As if the storm inside is no longer untamed, but beginning to take shape around purpose. You sense a quiet pain beneath the power, too, the memory of survival, of hiding, of waiting. Zeus was raised in secrecy to protect him from Cronus, the titan who devoured his own children to avoid being overthrown. It's one of mythology's darker tales, though you keep the imagery soft in your mind. Not gore, but the idea of a parent so afraid of fate that he tried to swallow it. A fringe tidbit drifts into your thoughts. Some ancient sources suggest Zeus wasn't raised in a cave at all, but on a remote island surrounded by protective spirits who clashed cymbals to drown out his cries. Whether it's true or poetic license, you imagine a group of devoted caretakers shaking metal plates like over-caffeinated babysitters determined to keep a newborn thunder god hidden. Zeus's energy shifts again, swirling upward into the clouds. The plateau brightens, the air tingling with electricity. The storm within him rises, not dangerously, but majestically. This is a different kind of storm. Not wild, not destructive, but intentional. It gathers strength, gathers purpose, gathers history before it's even written. You step back to watch. Lightning coils around Zeus, not striking outward but circling him in graceful arcs, like ribbons of silver-blue fire. He raises his hand, palm open to the sky, and the lightning spirals upward, dissolving into clouds that glow from within. The whole mountain seems to inhale, then exhale slowly, settling into an eerie calm. You feel the storm quiet, the plateau warms. The sky shifts from blue to a deep violet that softens every edge, every shadow. Zeus lowers his hand, and the lightning vanishes completely. But the world feels changed, more focused, more centered, as though the mountain itself recognizes a new balance emerging. You take a slow breath, letting the warmth return to your muscles. The storm within Zeus hasn't disappeared. Simply waiting, watching, preparing. A reminder that destiny is close but not yet fulfilled. And as you stand on that quiet, glowing plateau, the wind swirling gently around you, you understand. Zeus's rise isn't about thunder. It's about purpose forming in the heart of a storm. You leave the charged air of the storm plateau behind, stepping gently into a quieter part of the mountain where the wind softens and the light warms. The path narrows into a curve of pale stone, sheltered by tall pines that sway in slow, thoughtful arcs. The storm of Zeus fades behind you like distant thunder rolling into memory, and another presence begins to shape itself ahead. Calmer, steadier, woven with an elegance that feels almost architectural. The air grows warmer. The world grows more composed. You are walking into Hera's quiet watch. The first thing you notice is the calm. It settles around you like the hush that follows the closing of a great temple's door. The pines fall still, as though recognizing a figure of authority. You sense her before you see her. A steady pulse of intention, a presence that feels both patient and unyielding. Hera's early essence is nothing like the jealous queen later mythmakers turned her into. This is the Hera before the legends twisted her edges. Observant, anchored, balanced. A goddess who sees everything, but doesn't need to say much to shape the world around her. You walk along the narrow stone path until it widens into a ledge bathed in golden light. The clouds part above you, allowing the sun to illuminate a gentle curve of the mountain, transforming stone into warm honey-colored marble. Hera's presence stands at the center, not in bodily form, but as a luminous silhouette woven from gold and soft blue. Her energy feels organized, intentional, like someone who has already mentally rearranged every piece on the cosmic board 5 moves ahead. A warm breeze moves around you, carrying the scents of saffron, laurel, and something faintly sweet, perhaps wild thyme. You can almost imagine this as the earliest hint of Hera's domain. Marriage, family, sacred order, all the delicate threads that hold societies together. Strangely comforting. If Zeus's presence felt like weather, Hera's feels like architecture, the structure that keeps the world from collapsing into chaos. She watches you silently, not in judgment but in recognition, as though she sees your intentions, your curiosities, your place in this wandering journey. You feel no intimidation, just the sensation of being understood more clearly than you expected. Historians still argue whether Hera was originally a sky goddess, an earth goddess, or something else entirely. The truth is probably messy, like most ancient traditions, layered over time, shifting through local cults, older than the myths that now define her. Standing here, you sense why scholars have such a hard time pinning her down. Hera feels vast, foundational, and more complex than a single title allows. You step closer, and her energy shifts, wrapping you in a gentle focus. The sunlight brightens slightly, turning the ledge into a natural sanctuary. You take a slow breath, letting that warmth settle into your chest. A joke drifts into your mind before you can stop it. If ancient Greece had therapy, Hera would probably run the sessions and charge extra if you showed up late. She has that air of quiet authority, the kind that doesn't require raising a voice to command the room. A soft hum ripples through the air. Hera's presence expands, brushing lightly against your thoughts. You see flashes, not images exactly, but impressions. A veil of white cloth, a hand resting gently on a shoulder, a hearth flame burning steady, a promise whispered beneath a marriage arch of wildflowers. These are not myths, they're symbols, archetypes, Hera's early influence forming through human lives long before written stories existed. In another flash, you sense her watching the young Olympians, Zeus swirling with stormlight, Poseidon rumbling through the oceans of future domains, Hades holding his quiet, shadowed dignity. Hera sees them all, not with rivalry, but with an understanding deeper than time. She sees the shape of the world forming, the balance that must be kept, the responsibilities none of them can yet name. She is the anchor in a shifting universe. You walk to the edge of the ledge, looking out over the landscape. Forests roll across the valley in waves of deep green and silver. Rivers snake through the earth like living ribbons. Birds sweep through the air in easy arcs. The world feels stable here in a way it didn't on the Storm Plateau, as though this space marks the first moment where divine power recognizes the importance of harmony. A fringe tidbit floats through your mind. Some ancient traditions depict Hera as a child-nurturing goddess long before she became associated with marriage. In one forgotten fragment, she is described as the protector of newborns and the guardian of young women. You imagine her walking these same slopes, her presence soothing anxious mothers, calming frightened children, reminding the world that strength can be gentle without losing its force. Another breeze moves past you, and Hera's presence shifts once more, this time focusing on the horizon where distant clouds gather. She seems to be watching Zeus not with scorn, not with ire, but with a kind of measured calculation. Their relationship, in its earliest form, isn't love or conflict. It's recognition. Two immense forces circling the same center, each shaping the other's path. A faint chime echoes through the air, soft and melodic. You look around, expecting to see a shrine bell or a piece of metal struck by the wind. But there's nothing. The sound seems to come from Hera herself, a resonance of order. A quiet statement. Chaos has its place, but so does structure. You feel that resonance travel through you, settling into your breath, your posture, the rhythm of your steps. Hera's influence doesn't overwhelm. It aligns, gently, deliberately, like someone nudging your shoulders into a straighter line. A soft laugh catches in your chest as another thought appears. If Hera ever ran a household, you know every fork would be in its proper drawer, every cloak folded neatly, every god reprimanded for leaving ambrosia crumbs on the marble floor. Eternal order begins with clean surfaces. Even divine families aren't exempt. You step deeper into the golden space. Hera's light stretches around you in thin, graceful arcs like strands of silk. You feel the early fabric of law, oath, and expectation forming here, not rigid but intentional. It's easy to forget that mythological marriage in ancient Greece wasn't about romance but about alliance, legacy, stability. Hera embodies that foundation. She isn't the jealous queen yet. She is the keeper of sacred promises. The mountain warms where her presence touches it. The stone feels alive beneath your feet, humming with a quiet reassurance. You take another slow breath. The calm around you deepens. Hera's watch is protective, steady, unwavering, a counterbalance to the storms rising elsewhere on Olympus. As you turn to continue your journey, her presence follows for a moment. A soft pressure against your back, like a hand hovering inches from your shoulder. Not holding you, simply guiding, watching. You descend the ledge with a new steadiness in your step, carrying Hera's quiet strength with you as the mountain path curves toward another realm of divine power waiting just beyond the next ridge. You follow the sloping mountain path downward from Hera's golden ledge, the air gradually shifting from warm and structured to cool and beautifully crisp. The pines thin out, revealing flatter stone terraces where the light changes tone. No longer gold, no longer storm blue, but a soft, serene silver that clings to your skin like the glow of a lantern at dusk. You feel clarity rising around you, a gentle sharpening of thought, as though the mountain itself is guiding your mind into focus. The next presence forming ahead is unmistakably different from the storm and from the quiet order you've just left behind. This is a realm of strategy, insight, and luminous calm. You are walking into Athena's lantern of wisdom. The first thing you notice is the stillness. Not empty, not heavy, but thoughtful. A stillness that feels like a room arranged exactly as it should be. Nothing wasted, nothing excessive, everything quietly meaningful. The stones under your feet smooth into flat, tiled patterns, fitting together so perfectly you'd think a master artisan had carved them. Except no artisan did. This is Athena's early territory, and she insists on precision even before temples rise in her name. A soft breeze circles you, neither warm nor cold, carrying scents that awaken the mind. Olive leaves, fresh parchment, a hint of cool mineral water. You breathe in deeply, and for a moment it feels like your thoughts align themselves, stacking neatly like scrolls in an orderly library. You can almost imagine Athena arching an eyebrow at the chaos that usually lives in your brain and saying, "Let's fix that." Light gathers ahead, not bright, but steady. It pools softly on the ground, illuminating a small clearing ringed with pale stones. At the center stands a figure made not of flesh but of cool, shimmering radiance. The form is slender, upright, composed, the outline shifting between a young woman and a glowing silhouette. She doesn't speak, yet her presence is unmistakable. Athena. Her energy reaches you long before you step closer. Feels like clarity settling into your lungs. Like the courage that doesn't roar but whispers, "Try again." Like the assurance that every challenge has a solution if approached with calm thought. She is wisdom, strategy, patience, skill, all crafted into a single unwavering flame. You move closer, and the light of her lantern, if you can call it that, brightens gently. It's not a physical lantern. It's more like illumination woven from the air itself, a soft silver light that seems to steady the world around it. You feel it wash over you, smoothing the rough edges of your thoughts. If Zeus is a storm, Athena is the stillness after it, when the world is washed clean and the mind sharpens with renewed purpose. Historians still argue whether Athena was originally a goddess of war, craft, or wisdom first. But here, all three threads weave effortlessly together. You sense her awareness stretching beyond the clearing, across mountains, valleys, and even toward distant coastlines where early mortals someday will carve her image onto pottery in strokes of black and red. Athena feels like someone who would excel at everything without bragging about it, which is almost scarier. You glance around the clearing and notice objects forming at the edges of your vision. Not fully real, more like concepts testing their shapes. A spear of translucent light, a woven cloth smooth as fresh water. A tiny owl flickering in and out of existence on a branch that wasn't there a moment ago. The owl blinks at you once, judgmentally, You swear it knows all your questionable life choices. You take a slow step forward, and Athena's presence shifts, subtle, welcoming, but with an undertone of challenge, like a teacher gently nudging you toward a harder question. Her light brushes your shoulders, warming one side, cooling the other. Balance. Always balance. A whisper of wind brings a story into your thoughts, her birth. The tale that Zeus swallowed her mother, Métis, and that Athena sprang fully formed from his head. Explained gently, you imagine it not as violence but as symbolism. The mind giving birth to wisdom. Still, a fringe interpretation exists in some old texts. That Athena didn't emerge explosively but unfolded calmly from Zeus's brow as a silver mist that shaped itself into a goddess. The softer version feels fitting here. Nothing about her energy tonight feels chaotic. Everything is intentional. You stand beside the lantern light and watch the way it bends across the stone. It illuminates pathways that seem to branch in every direction, as if Athena is showing you options without telling you which one to choose. She is not a goddess of answers. She is a goddess of thoughtful decisions. There's a difference, and you feel it down to your bones. A quiet joke forms in your mind. If ancient Greece had university finals, Athena would absolutely be the student who finishes early, checks everyone else's work, organizes study groups, and still gets highest honors while insisting she barely studied. You suspect even the owl would roll its eyes at her humility. As you settle onto a smooth stone bench, yes, it appears exactly when you need it. Athena's presence draws closer. Her light wraps around you like a calm embrace, and suddenly you understand why ancient cities prayed to her for protection. Her wisdom isn't cold. It isn't distant. It's warm, guiding, supportive. She helps you see the world clearly, not harshly. Your gaze shifts to the horizon visible through the clearing. From here, the world spreads out in quiet detail. River paths glinting, forests breathing, distant mountains casting long shadows. Athena seems to encourage you to observe, to notice patterns, to think before acting. You realize how different her domain is from Zeus's raw force or Hera's structured authority. Athena's power is subtle, strategic, and deeply rooted in understanding rather than domination. She steps. No, her light shifts closer, and suddenly you feel the weight of her gaze without seeing her face. It is a gaze that evaluates quietly, thoroughly, but without judgment. She sees your curiosity, your wandering mind, your search for a peaceful night, and for a moment the clearing glows brighter, as if her wisdom acknowledges and welcomes your journey. A flicker of thought runs through you. Ancient Greeks believed Athena invented the plow, the flute, and even the art of shipbuilding. Whether or not that's true, her creativity is palpable here. The clearing feels like a sketchbook of ideas, each one ready to be shaped by clever hands. You rise slowly from the stone bench, and Athena's lantern light draws a small circle around your feet. Gentle, inviting, a silent wish for clarity as you continue on. You take one last look at her luminous outline, absorbing the quiet strength and calm brilliance that radiates from her. Then the path forms again, this time lined with silvery leaves that shimmer like polished shields, and you follow it onward, carrying the lantern's soft glow within you as the mountain leads you toward new horizons waiting in the heart of the divine world. You leave Athena's silver clearing feeling clearer, steadier, as though her quiet lantern left a soft glow inside your mind. The path that stretches ahead slopes downward at first, then curves toward a region of the mountain where the air grows gently warmer. The shift is immediate, subtle golden light replaces the cool silver behind you, and a soft hum drifts through the breeze, melodic enough that you first think someone is playing a lyre just out of sight. But there is no musician. Not yet. This warmth, this radiance, this rising sense of harmony can only belong to one presence. Apollo. The sky above opens into a wash of pale amber, not the blazing gold of noon but the mellow brightness of early morning, when light moves slowly, carefully, settling itself across the world. Your steps fall into rhythm with the hum in the air. Each footfall feels smoother, your breath deeper, your thoughts more spacious. Apollo's domain is often described as light, truth, music, prophecy, healing. Yet none of these feels separate here. Everything blends into one steady, gentle horizon. You follow the path until it widens into a sunlit terrace carved halfway into the mountainside. No storms, no shadows, just a soft, warm glow that feels like stepping into the first day of spring. The stone here is pale gold, warm beneath your feet, as if sunlight has been soaking into it for centuries. A small breeze glides through the air, carrying hints of laurel leaves, wild honey, and something faintly herbal, like thyme drying in the sun. The scent relaxes your shoulders instantly. If Zeus is lightning and Athena is clarity, Apollo is warmth for the spirit. At the center of the terrace, a figure begins to form, not sharply defined, more like a silhouette made of sunlight and calm fire. He stands tall but not imposing. His outline hums with quiet harmony, as though he is tuned perfectly to the world. You sense youth, confidence, and ease that feels almost magnetic. Apollo doesn't push his presence outward. It simply radiates, drawing everything into balance. A gentle melody swirls behind him, soft as breath, steady as heartbeat. It seems to come from everywhere at once. The breeze, the stone, the distant sky. You think for a moment that this must be the music of the spheres, the cosmic harmony ancient philosophers believed resonated through all creation. Historians still argue whether that was meant literally or metaphorically, but as you stand in Apollo's glow, the idea suddenly feels less like myth and more like atmospheric science performed by a god with incredible pitch. Apollo's presence brightens as you take another step. The light doesn't blind. It caresses, softening everything it touches. You feel tension leaving your neck, your temples, the small muscles near your eyes. If you were a mortal living centuries ago, you might have come to a sanctuary of Apollo seeking healing. And standing here, you understand why. Even without words, his energy feels restorative, as if gently realigning something inside you. A fringe tidbit comes to mind. Some ancient Greeks believed Apollo could send both healing and illness with his arrows, light that nurtures and light that harms. But what you feel here is purely soothing, like a warm hand resting between your shoulder blades, steadying your breath. You look up at the sky. It's clear, impossibly clear, stretching out in a serene blue that seems to open infinitely. A single hawk circles far above, riding a thermal current with effortless grace. You can't help thinking that if Apollo ever got bored, controlling bird flight patterns might be his version of casual doodling. He has that eternal overachiever vibe, but without the stress. As you walk closer, Apollo's shape solidifies just enough that you can sense eyes watching you, bright, calm, assessing not for judgment, but for understanding. His presence feels like sunlight with awareness, a warm miracle that notices everything without intruding. At your feet, the stone shifts into a gentle pattern, spirals radiating outward like ripples on a still pond. You realize these spirals point toward different domains associated with Apollo: art and philosophy, healing and medicine, poetry and prophecy. Each path glows faintly. He doesn't tell you which one to follow. He simply illuminates them all. The melody in the air changes slightly, introducing the soft plucking of invisible strings. You imagine the first lyre taking shape in Apollo's hands, crafted from tortoise shell according to myth, a borderline chaotic origin for something so elegant. A quiet, amused thought rises. Hermes allegedly stole Apollo's cattle, then invented the lyre as a peace offering. You picture a young Apollo staring at this suspiciously gifted instrument like a parent trying to decide whether to punish their child or admire their creativity. Mythic family dynamics are complicated. The music swells gently, wrapping around your ears like a soft cloth. Your breathing settles into its rhythm. Even your heartbeat adapts, slowing to match the soothing cadence. Apollo's light settles onto your shoulders, warm, comforting, and strangely clarifying. Not sharp like Athena's clarity, but gentle, motivational. The kind of clarity you feel after waking from a long, refreshing nap. You sit on a smooth, sunlit stone, letting the warmth seep into your bones. Apollo's presence draws nearer, and suddenly you feel something shift inside your thoughts. A moment of inspiration sparking quietly. Not a loud revelation, but a soft one, like a whisper telling you that some part of the future will be okay. Prophecy doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to feel possible. In the stillness, you notice a soft murmur echoing through the terrace. Words without sound. Visions without images. A rhythm without melody. Apollo's prophecies are not the dramatic, cryptic riddles the later oracles will speak. They are threads of possibility drifting through light, and you catch only enough to feel reassured, not overwhelmed. Another breeze passes, and these soft visions scatter harmlessly into the sky. Apollo's light dims slightly, the way sunlight softens in late afternoon. You sense that your time here is nearing its natural close, not rushed, not abrupt, just gentle closure. You rise and take one last look at him. The young god of light, standing in his golden clearing, radiating hope without need for grandeur. He nods, a subtle gesture you feel more than see, and in that motion lies kindness, creativity, and a promise that light will return even in the darkest myths ahead. You step away from the terrace, carrying Apollo's warmth with you as the path curves once more. This time toward deeper woods and softer shadows waiting under the moon's quiet protection. You leave Apollo's warm, glowing terrace and step onto a new stretch of mountain path where the light shifts once again. This time fading from gold to silver, from brightness to a soft, moon-like hush. The warmth behind you cools into a gentle night breeze. Trees gather around the path, taller here, their trunks slender and pale as if shaped by moonlight instead of soil. The air grows quieter, softer, more private. Every sound seems muted except the faint rustle of leaves brushing against one another with the gentleness of fingertips. You feel your breath slow as the shadows deepen, but not in a frightening way. This silence is protective. This quiet belongs to Artemis. A pale glow appears between the trees, not strong enough to be the sun, not weak enough to be a lantern. It's the shy, steady luminosity of the moon rising through branches. You follow it, your steps crunching softly on a bed of pine needles and cool earth. The forest welcomes you in, its air infused with scents of lavender, wild mint, and fresh bark. You notice how your senses sharpen, not in alarm but in awareness. Artemis doesn't overwhelm you. She awakens you gently, the way the moon brings out shapes in the night that sunlight forgets. The path widens into a clearing ringed with tall trees whose silver-touched leaves shimmer with every breath of wind. Moonlight filters down in thin beams, illuminating patches of dewy grass that glow faintly like pools of liquid light. You feel cooler here, wrapped in nighttime softness. The shift from Apollo's sun to Artemis's moon feels almost like stepping into a dream within a dream. At the far edge of the clearing, a figure forms, a slender outline of silver light, fluid and graceful. Artemis does not stand still. She moves with the effortless glide of a creature born to the forest. Her presence feels both serene and alert, like the quiet tension before an arrow is released. She is youth, independence, the whisper-soft step of a deer in the underbrush. She radiates a fierce tenderness, protective and instinctual, and you understand instantly why ancient Greeks revered her as guardian of the young, the lost, and the wandering. Her eyes, or the suggestion of them, glow with cool intelligence. They observe without intruding. You feel seen, not judged. A fringe tidbit drifts into your mind. Certain ancient regions believed Artemis was originally a bear goddess, long before the graceful archer imagery took root. Strange, but somehow fitting. She carries both gentleness and fierce maternal strength, protective, wild, and free. The wind shifts, and Artemis's outline glides toward you, her presence brushing your skin like the cool shadow of a wing. Her energy is subtle but powerful. She isn't a goddess of noise or spectacle. Her realm is quiet, intention, and instinct. You feel it in your bones. The sense that she belongs to the untouched places, the hidden trails, the secret pools where animals drink under starlight. Your footsteps soften as you walk toward her. Even the air seems to hush its movements. You become aware of tiny sounds you'd usually miss. The crunch of a beetle moving under a leaf, the distant hoot of an owl, likely evaluating your life choices, as all owls seem to do. The gentle ripple of water somewhere nearby. Artemis listens to all of it at once. Her presence stretches like a protective veil across the clearing. A soft silver glow pulses through the forest, and the hidden water you heard reveals itself. A small pool ringed by smooth stones. Moonlight reflects on its surface like shifting silvery threads. You kneel beside it, and the water is so still it feels sacred. The surface doesn't show your reflection right away. Instead, you see the outline of a doe standing at the opposite edge. Her ears flick. Her body remains perfectly still. Artemis stands behind her, her light tracing the doe's form with gentle reverence. You realize the animals here are not fearful. They exist under her protection. Historians still argue whether Artemis was primarily a goddess of the hunt or of wilderness protection. Some say she embodies both. Standing here, you understand how effortlessly the two coexist. The forest needs balance, life and death, growth and culling, nurturing and challenge. Artemis holds both sides without apology. A breeze moves across the clearing, and Artemis lifts her arm. Not sharply, simply raising it as though feeling the air. Her form glows brighter for a moment, then softens again. You feel a ripple of instinct, like a quiet reminder that intuition is its own form of wisdom. She isn't teaching you with words. She's guiding you with presence. You step back from the water and look toward the trees. Trails branch outward, barely visible, faint as deer paths. Artemis's light touches one trail, then another, suggesting choices without dictating them. She is the goddess of thresholds, crossroads within the wilderness where instinct must guide you. A gentle joke flickers through your thoughts. If Artemis had a modern job, she'd probably be the national park ranger who knows every trail, every nest, every animal by name, and absolutely refuses to let tourists feed the wildlife. The thought warms you. Artemis's presence doesn't invite fear. It invites respect and curiosity and a sense of belonging to something older than cities or temples. She turns toward the deeper woods, and you follow, moving quietly. The trees here form archways of pale branches woven with silver light. You hear the distant patter of small paws, foxes perhaps, or the flutter of wings high above. The forest shifts around you like a living tapestry, each strand moving with gentle purpose. A clearing opens again, this one smaller, more intimate. Inside is a circle of soft moss that glows faintly under the moonlight. Artemis steps into it, and the circle brightens, illuminating her form clearly for the first time. She holds a bow, not raised, not drawn, simply held with familiarity, like an extension of her own will. It shines with pale luminescence, carved from something that looks almost like crescent moonstone. You realize the bow is symbolic here. Not a weapon, but a channel for focus and intention. She looks at you and the clearing stills. The moment stretches, long and soft, like time exhaling. Her presence surrounds you, cool and comforting, and you sense what she is offering: calm, vigilance, and the quiet courage to move forward, even in darkness. When she lowers her bow, the moment dissolves, gentle as falling petals. Artemis takes a single step back, merging once more with the forest shadows. Her light lingers for a heartbeat, then fades into the trees, leaving only the moon to guide you. You take one last breath of the cool forest air and turn toward the path leading onward, the path where the scent of salt water and shifting tides begins to rise. You step out of Artemis's moonlit forest, the hush of silver leaves fading behind you as the air begins to thicken with something heavier, saltier, and far more restless. The scent reaches you first, a deep briny tang, sharp and cold, curling through the trees like a messenger from another realm. The ground under your feet shifts from soft moss to firmer, darker soil, then to pebbles, then to stone carved smooth by centuries of invisible tides. The sound follows next, a distant churn, a slow roar, the unmistakable pulse of the sea. But this isn't a gentle shore or a warm Aegean breeze. This is something older, deeper. This is the midnight tide that belongs to Poseidon. The path slopes downward until the last trees thin out completely, opening onto a rugged cliffside overlooking an expanse of dark water stretching endlessly into the night. The sea is restless here, its surface rippling with a quiet energy that feels alive, aware, almost contemplative. Moonlight glides across the waves, turning them into shifting bands of silver and shadow. The wind carries droplets of spray that cling to your face like cool, whispered blessings. You step closer to the cliff's edge. The stone is dark, veined with shimmering minerals that catch the moonlight in streaks like underwater lightning. Waves crash far below, slow but powerful, sending up mists that rise like breath from a sleeping colossus. You feel the vibrations under your feet, deep, rhythmic, patient. This is not the gentle sea of fishermen and harbor towns. This is the primal ocean, the kind that remembers everything. A low rumble travels through the stone, subtle at first, then rising like a prolonged exhale. It isn't thunder. It isn't the shifting of cliffs. It's something sentient. Poseidon's presence is waking. The waves pull back, as though inhaling, and for a moment the entire sea seems to hold still. The silence is immense, heavy. Then a pale turquoise glow forms beneath the water's surface. Not bright, not blinding, just enough to illuminate the world below in mysterious swells. The glow rises slowly, swirling in wide circles that spiral upward like columns of liquid starlight. You watch, breath slowing, as the glow breaks the surface in a soft burst. A figure rises, not fully shaped, not fully flesh, more like a silhouette carved from deep-sea light and shadow. He grows clearer with each wave that lifts him. Broad shoulders, a fluid, shifting form, power without rage, strength without noise. Poseidon. His presence feels entirely different from Zeus's. Zeus's energy crackles outward, impatient and electric. Poseidon's moves inward, deep and quiet, like the pull of a tide on the ocean floor. There is steadiness here, depth and something else. An ancient moodiness that shifts with every ripple of the sea. He doesn't look at you at first. He looks at the water, as if interpreting something in its surface only he can read. Historians still argue whether Poseidon began as an earth-shaking deity or a sea god first. Some ancient inscriptions suggest he once ruled horses and earthquakes long before the ocean became his domain. Standing here, you understand how easily all three could belong to him. His presence feels like a tectonic force wrapped in fluid motion. A wave rises behind him, towering but slow, its crest glowing faintly in blues and greens. Instead of crashing, it drifts around him like a curtain of shifting glass. The water obeys him without effort, bending to his silent command. You sense emotions stirring in that movement. Calm curiosity, ancient melancholy, a touch of divine stubbornness that feels almost familiar, like dealing with a relative who refuses to admit they're wrong even on their birthday. He finally turns toward you. The sensation is immediate, a weight settling in your chest, not heavy but grounding. His gaze, if you can call it that, feels like the deep part of the ocean that no sunlight reaches. Intense but not threatening. He studies you for a moment, as though assessing whether you understand the language of waves. The wind picks up, swirling around you in cool spirals. Poseidon raises one hand, fingers fluid like currents, and the wind settles instantly. The sea calms too, becoming so smooth it looks like polished obsidian. You can see faint reflections of stars trembling on the surface. The sudden stillness is startling, almost surreal, then soothing. A quirky thought rises, uninvited. If Zeus is the loud sibling who announces every emotion with a thunderclap, Poseidon is the middle child who says absolutely nothing but conveys entire monologues through meaningful stares and dramatic water motions. Poseidon shifts his hand again, and the still water ripples outward, forming patterns that curl like ancient symbols. You step closer to the cliff edge, watching the ripples trace shapes. Spirals like seashells, sharp lines like tridents, and once, briefly, the outline of a horse galloping beneath the waves. The Greeks believed Poseidon created the first horse, combining sea foam with divine breath. Whether that story was meant literally or not, historians still debate. But here, the shape beneath the waves feels intentional, almost nostalgic, as if Poseidon remembers that creation well. He lowers his hand, and the water erupts in a soft surge. A wave rises, carrying bioluminescent streaks that swirl like constellations reflected underwater. The glow drifts toward the cliff but stops just short, lifting into the air in tiny droplets that sparkle for a moment before evaporating into shimmering mist. The droplets brush your arms, your cheeks, cool and calming. Poseidon steps closer, not walking exactly, but moving with the tide as it climbs briefly up the cliff, forming a smooth pathway of water under his feet. He doesn't speak, but the message in his movement is clear. The sea is vast, but it listens. Another rumble echoes beneath the earth, and you feel the stone tremble. Not violently, just enough to remind you of tectonic forces humming far below. Some ancient Greeks believed Poseidon caused earthquakes by striking the ground with his trident, but this quake feels gentle, like a reminder rather than a warning. A nudge from the god of the deep, letting you sense the world's bones shifting calmly. He lifts his hand, palm out, and the tremor fades. You feel a wave of comfort wash over you. Not warmth, not light, but the reassurance of something ancient watching from below. A long, slow exhale from the world itself. The sea begins to move again, returning to its natural rhythms. The glow beneath the waves dims. Poseidon steps back, dissolving slowly into water and shadow. His presence lingers long after his form fades. Steady, watchful, dark, and deep. You take one last breath of the salty air. The tide rises and falls in slow, soothing cadences. The wind sighs through the cliffside, and somewhere far below, you feel Poseidon's quiet mood drifting with the currents. Then you turn from the cliff and follow the path upward again, toward a darkness not of the sea but of another realm entirely, one ruled by silence, order, and the quiet dignity of the underworld. You leave the roaring quiet of Poseidon's midnight tides behind, climbing gradually from the cliffside until the air grows still again. So still it feels like the world has paused its breathing. The scent of salt water thins into something drier, cooler, almost dust-like. The sky above darkens, not into storm clouds, but into a deeper, velvet shadow that seems to swallow moonlight rather than reflect it. Your steps soften on the rocky path as it begins sloping downward, bending toward a realm that has waited patiently beneath the world since the first heartbeat of creation. The atmosphere shifts, not ominous or threatening, but orderly, gentle in its quiet, firm in its structure. You realize you're walking into a space almost everyone misunderstands. This is the kingdom of Hades, and it is not what you were taught to fear. The descent is slow, calm. There is no sudden plunge, no sinister doorway appearing abruptly. Instead, the path becomes smoother, more polished, as if countless feet, mortal, divine, and somewhere in between, have walked here quietly across ages. The silence deepens, but not in a way that makes you shrink. It feels like a library silence, the kind that invites contemplation. Your breathing naturally softens. The air cools further, carrying faint whispers of minerals, stone, and a distant river you can't quite hear yet, but somehow feel. The first shape you notice is the archway. It doesn't rise grandly like a temple or shimmer like Olympus. It's modest, carved directly into the mountain's rock, its edges worn smooth by time. Above it, faint engravings glimmer. Spirals, lines, symbols whose meanings have been lost or argued over by scholars for centuries. Historians still debate whether early Greeks imagined the underworld as a literal cavern system or more like a spiritual plane, but stepping through this archway, you understand how easily myth could blend with geology. The tunnel beyond is cool and dim, but not dark. Soft light glows from veins of mineral running through the walls. Faint blues, muted greens, gentle whites, like moonlight trapped in stone. As you walk, the glow pulses subtly, keeping pace with your steps as though guiding you deeper with deliberate care. The air grows thicker, more settled, but still breathable. You sense no malice here, just ancient patience. Then you hear it, the river. It begins as a distant murmur, like soft fabric being dragged across stone. Then it grows, steady and rhythmic, a low murmur curling through the tunnel until you emerge into a cavern so vast you cannot see where its ceiling ends. The river Styx flows across its center, not a dark, frightening torrent, but a wide, slow-moving current of deep silver gray. Its surface is so smooth it reflects the cavern lights in long, wavering ribbons. You approach its bank, noticing that the water emits a faint hum, gentle but resonant, like distant singing. A quirky trivia piece floats into your mind. According to some ancient writers, the water of Styx was so sacred and binding that even the gods feared breaking an oath sworn upon it. One scroll even claimed the water could dissolve anything, but was terrible for digestion. You imagine a god accidentally drinking it and immediately regretting every life choice. As you stand beside the river, a small wooden ferry approaches. No boatman visible, or dipping into the water. It simply glides, guided by some unseen current. You board it, trusting instinct more than logic, and the vessel moves on its own, carrying you across the Styx with effortless grace. The quiet is comforting, the hum of the river steady as a heartbeat. The ferry lands on the opposite side without a sound. As you step off, the cavern opens into a wide plain of soft, pale earth. The landscape is not bleak. It's muted, serene, like the world in the moment before dawn, when everything is washed in a single gentle shade. Shapes drift here and there, spirits, faint figures made of light and memory rather than flesh. They move without sorrow, without panic, simply existing in calm, steady rhythms. You realize how different this is from the pop culture image of the underworld. There is no torture here, no fire, no chaos. This realm is orderly, balanced, place of rest. And then you feel him. His presence rises slowly, not bursting from shadows or striding dramatically from darkness. Hades emerges the way a steady thought comes into focus. Quiet, inevitable, calm. He stands at the edge of the plain, formed from shadows woven with soft gold. His figure is tall, composed, wrapped in a mantle that seems part of the cavern itself. He does not intimidate. He radiates dignity, a groundedness that makes the air around him feel more stable. Hades watches you with eyes that reflect the glow of the river. His gaze isn't cold, just deep. He sees you the way one might study a stone or a story, carefully, respectfully. You sense wisdom in him, the kind born from centuries of silence and responsibility. If Zeus is the sky's roar and Poseidon the ocean's rumble, Hades is the earth's steady heartbeat. You walk toward him, feeling the ground firm and smooth beneath your feet. The quiet around him is mesmerizing, thick but gentle, like a blanket woven from stillness. When he moves, it's with deliberate ease, the way someone who carries great weight learns to move lightly. He inclines his head slightly in greeting. The gesture feels formal but not distant. You sense that Hades values order, ritual, and balance more than displays of power. Everything about him feels carefully measured. A fringe myth surfaces in your memory. Some ancient poets claimed Hades wore a helmet that could turn him invisible, gifted by the Cyclopes. Though he isn't wearing it now, the idea seems fitting. Hades doesn't crave attention. Power doesn't need to shout when it is absolute. You follow him further into the underworld. The space changes subtly with every step, transforming from a cavern into a vast, open hall shaped from obsidian and luminous mineral. No throne dominates the room. Instead, long, smooth tables stretch into the distance. Tables that seem meant for judgment, reflection, record-keeping. The underworld isn't a place of fear. It's a place of structure. Hades gestures for you to walk beside him. The silence around you softens even further. You hear faint whispers from distant spirits, but they sound almost like wind passing through reeds. Gentle, uniform, unafraid. You realize something unexpected. Hades' realm is not about death. It's about what remains, what endures, what must be kept safe from oblivion. His kingdom is preservation, memory, and the quiet integrity of endings that make room for beginnings. A soft laugh rises in your chest at a sudden thought. If the Olympians were a modern family, Hades would be the reserved sibling who handles all the paperwork, keeps track of everyone's important documents, and has never once raised his voice, but somehow always gets the final say. Hades turns slightly, as though he heard the thought. You swear there's the faintest hint of amusement in his eyes. He leads you toward a high overlook where the underworld spreads out beneath you, like a landscape carved from shadow and starlight. Fields of soft gray grass ripple gently. Streams glow with pale luminescence. Everything moves in calm cycles, undisturbed. You stand beside him, absorbing the stillness of this misunderstood realm. And slowly, you feel the quiet settle deep into your bones. A calm so profound it feels like sinking into warm sand. Hades's presence remains steady, watchful, not threatening, protective. You inhale the cool, mineral-scented air, letting the peace of this quiet kingdom settle around you. Then, as you turn to leave, a soft pulse travels through the ground, gentle as a distant footstep. Something else is stirring in the underworld. Something cyclic, rhythmic, alive. The presence of someone whose story bridges both worlds. The next chapter waiting softly in the shadows. You step away from Hades's quiet overlook, the soft pulse you felt still echoing faintly beneath your feet. It feels different from the steady rhythm of the underworld. Lighter, more cyclical, like a heartbeat that belongs partly to this realm and partly to the world above. The air shifts subtly, warming by a single, delicate degree. A breeze moves across the plain, carrying with it the faint scent of blossoms. Impossible in this shadowed world, yet unmistakably real. Something is changing. Something is returning. Something is descending. This is the presence of Persephone, whose story loops endlessly between realms like the turning of seasons themselves. You follow the pulse as it grows stronger, guiding you across a narrow stone bridge that arches gracefully over a stream of pale blue water. The current beneath you glows softly, reflecting the cavern's ceiling like a mirror. As you cross, the water ripples with hues of green and gold, colors that don't belong to the underworld alone. They belong to fields, to sunlight, to blooming wildflowers, to breezes moving through tall grass. Life leaking into a land of quiet endings. Persephone's approach. On the far side of the bridge, the landscape begins to transform. The earth, previously pale and muted, takes on a tint of soft green. Grass sprouts in faint patches, as though waking from a long sleep. Small flowers begin to appear, white, violet, yellow, delicate shapes unfolding silently from the soil. It feels like walking into a memory of spring, tender and quiet. The path winds through this blooming corridor, each step a blend of worlds. You feel a faint breeze, warmer than the underworld should allow, brushing your skin with the scent of pomegranate and fresh earth. A fringed tidbit surfaces. Some ancient sources describe Persephone not just as the underworld's queen, but as a goddess who teaches the secrets of grain, seeds, and sprouting plants. In those traditions, she is not merely someone who returns each spring. She is spring. A soft thought flickers through your mind. No wonder every flower seems to rise the moment she draws near. The path opens into a clearing bathed in an ethereal glow. Here, the air feels different, lighter, tinged with life in a way that feels almost impossible underground. At the center of the clearing stands a garden, small but impossibly lush for this realm. Blossoms sway gently, though there is no wind. Vines curl around smooth obsidian stones, weaving living patterns across their surfaces. The garden feels like a secret held in shadow, protected and cherished. And at its heart, she appears. Persephone rises not from the earth, not from shadow, but from a beam of soft green light descending from somewhere above, somewhere between worlds. Her form is gentle, glowing, woven from life and quiet power. She stands tall, but there is an ethereal softness to her posture, as though she has learned to inhabit two realms without choosing one over the other. Her hair flows like strands of midnight threaded with strands of morning sunlight. Her eyes shimmer with warmth, depth, and something profoundly knowing. She does not look at you first. She looks at her garden. Her presence settles across the clearing like the first warm breeze of April. The flowers respond instantly, blooming wider, brightening in color, lifting their faces to her. You sense her connection to them, not ownership but partnership. Persephone does not command life. She encourages it, coaxes it gently into being. As she turns toward you, her gaze carries layers. Youth and maturity, light and darkness, softness and iron-willed determination. No single myth captures her fully. No single role defines her. You feel her complexity like a tapestry unfurling in quiet detail. She steps closer, and the ground beneath her feet blooms. Tiny green shoots rise with each footfall. Her presence wraps around you like a warm blanket infused with spring air. Then the air cools slightly, and her expression deepens into something more meditative. She is the queen of the underworld, after all. Her duality is constant. This garden is not rebellion, it is balance. You take a slow breath, letting the floral-scented air fill your lungs. Memories of seasons drift into your mind. The first thaw, the first budding leaves, the first soft sunlight after winter's long hush. Persephone's energy contains all of it. Historians still argue whether Persephone's tale represents agricultural cycles, marriage symbolism, or the spiritual journey between life and death. Standing here, amidst the bloom and quiet stone, you understand how all those interpretations overlap. Persephone is the hinge of the year, the turning point of light, the quiet transformation that happens in soil and in spirit. A breeze stirs, bringing with it the faintest laughter, soft, musical, like chimes swaying gently. Persephone's smile forms slowly, warm but edged with ancient wisdom. You feel an invitation in her presence, not to speak but simply to exist for a moment in the dual worlds she embodies. You glance down at her hands. In one, she holds a sprig of young barley. In the other, a pomegranate seed glows faintly like a ruby ember. Life and binding, choice and destiny, growth and return. Her story, distilled into symbols she holds with perfect ease. A small joke flickers in your thoughts. If the gods held family dinners, Persephone would be the calm one, reminding everyone that change is natural, winter doesn't last forever, and also, please stop arguing over ambrosia recipes. The clearing seems to breathe with her. As she lifts the barley sprig, the flowers around her sway, leaning toward the motion. When she lowers the pomegranate seed, the air darkens slightly, not threateningly, just in reminder. Time moves in cycles. Light cannot exist without shadow. She steps toward a shallow pool near the edge of the garden. The water is perfectly still, reflecting not your face, not her face, but the shifting seasons. Autumn leaves drifting into winter frost, melting into spring blossoms, rising into summer's gold. The cycle repeats, each transition gentle but inevitable. Persephone watches the pool with quiet acceptance, as though seeing her own reflection through time. You sense her offering you something, not a command, not a prophecy, but a rhythm, a way of understanding the world's ebb and flow. The reassurance that endings aren't final and beginnings aren't absolute. Everything turns, everything returns, everything rests. She looks at you one last time, her presence warm and steady. Then the light around her brightens, lifting her gently, slowly, as if the earth itself is releasing her for the next phase of her eternal journey. The glow fades, the garden stills, but the warmth in the air stays with you, reminding you that transformation is not something to fear. It is the quiet heartbeat of existence. And as you turn to leave the garden, the path ahead brightens faintly, guiding you toward distant echoes. Voices not of gods now, but of mortals whose stories drift like softened legends across ancient time. You leave Persephone's blooming garden slowly, carrying her gentle warmth with you as the air shifts once more. The soft blossoms quiet their glow behind you, and the underworld's cool stillness returns, not as emptiness, but as a serene backdrop for what comes next. The path ahead rises slightly, guiding you toward a realm that feels neither divine nor subterranean, but suspended somewhere in between. You sense the presence of countless stories drifting through the air like distant echoes. These are not the thunderous legends of gods or the cosmic whispers of primordial beings. These are the softened tales of mortal heroes, humans whose bravery, foolishness, triumphs, and failures shaped the myths that pulse gently through history like forgotten lullabies. The underworld plain fades into a wide expanse of pale, mist-woven landscape. Shapes move within the mist, faint outlines of figures walking slowly, quietly, peacefully. They are not restless. They are not lost. They drift like memories settling into place. You hear no cries, no laments, only gentle murmurs carried by the breeze, conversations long faded but still warm with meaning. These are the echoes of mortal heroes, softened by time, stripped of drama, held with quiet dignity. The first voice reaches you as a faint ripple of calm through the mist. Not speech, more like emotion translated into vibration. It carries a sense of incredible strength mingled with regret, courage mixed with longing. The mist thickens, and a tall silhouette forms ahead. Broad shoulders, a lion-skin cloak, a presence powerful enough to shake mountains, yet softened here into something humbler. Heracles, not the boisterous, exaggerated hero from later retellings. Not the unstoppable warrior swinging clubs the size of tree trunks. Here, his presence feels gentler, like a mountain at rest. His outline glows faintly, golden but muted, as if memories of sunlight cling to him, reluctant to fade completely. He doesn't speak, but his presence tells a story. You feel hints of his 12 labors drifting around him like distant memories. The Nemean lions roar softened into a sigh, the Erymanthian boar's thundering hooves reduced to a faint tremor in the ground. Each labor feels like a muted echo, no longer epic battles but gentle ripples across the mist. Less about conquest, more about endurance. A quirky fact floats into your thoughts. Some ancient writers insisted Heracles completed a secret extra labor, cleaning up the paperwork caused by all the chaos from the first 12. Standing before him now, you half believe it. Heracles nods once, a quiet acknowledgement that feels like the bow of a mountain. Then he fades gently into the mist, leaving behind a faint warmth. Another shape forms, slimmer, faster, moving with the grace of someone who has run across countless landscapes. Atalanta, her presence flickers in quick strides, her silhouette sharp and focused. She circles you lightly, her motion soft as the whisper of wind between trees. She leaves no footprints. The air hums with speed, but also with purpose. She is not racing now. She is remembering. You sense flashes of her famous race, the golden apples gleaming like tiny suns, rolling across the earth in slow arcs. But here, there is no competition, no chasing, just the soft afterglow of motion. Atalanta pauses before you for a moment, her outline shimmering with independence and quiet pride, then disappears seamlessly back into the drifting mist. The echoes shift again, and this time a heavier presence emerges. A quiet gravity that draws your attention with solemn weight. A tall figure steps forward, carrying a faint glint of bronze. A shield, a helmet, a warrior's silhouette softened into fog. Achilles. He feels very different from the others. His presence a quiet ache, a longing stretched across centuries. Achilles' legend is often loud, filled with fury and glory. But here, the rage has cooled. The pride has quieted. What remains is clarity, acceptance, a sense of fragility hidden behind strength. You feel him wondering, not with bitterness, but with reflection, about the choices he made, the life he lived, the honor he sought. There is peace in him here, surprising and gentle. Historians still argue whether Achilles' story was based on a real warrior or entirely poetic invention, but standing in his softened presence, you understand that the truth might not matter. His echo has become its own kind of reality, part myth, part memory, part lesson. He offers you a faint, solemn nod before dissolving into the white mist like a wave returning quietly to sea. Then a lighter, quicker echo appears, accompanied by a soft rush of wings. A small figure flickers into sight, a boyish silhouette carrying something like a lyre. Orpheus. His presence arrives as a melody rather than a shape, a soft tune woven into the air like silk. You don't hear notes exactly. You hear impressions. Loss, hope, tenderness, longing. The story of his descent into the underworld to find Eurydice drifts through your thoughts, but not in its tragic form. Here, it feels like a memory of love that softened with time, the ache gentled into something beautiful. A fringe tidbit crosses your mind. Some ancient poems claim Orpheus didn't die from the hands of furious worshippers, but simply wandered into the mountains and faded peacefully into song. The version here feels closer to that softer fate. His presence lingers for a moment, offering a final warm chord before dissolving like wind dissolving into silence. The mist swirls and shifts again, forming a new figure, shorter, stockier, carrying the sense of endurance etched into every line of his shape. Odysseus, but not the cunning hero with a dozen plans waiting at his fingertips. Here, his presence feels weary, contemplative. You sense the years drifting off him like waves, the memories of endless sea journeys softened into gentle sighs. There's humor in him still, a spark that survived even the Cyclops episode, but it's quieter now. When he moves, it's with the easy resignation of someone who has finally found rest. Your mind fills with a warm joke. If Odysseus were alive today, he'd still be that person who refuses to use GPS because adventure builds character, even though everyone else just wants to arrive on time. Odysseus's outline dips in a brief gesture of farewell before dissolving into the mist like smoke. The echoes shift once more, forming smaller shapes now. Groups of figures, faint outlines of ordinary lives made extraordinary through story. Young warriors who once chased glory. Farmers who once prayed to Athena for protection. Sailors who once begged Poseidon for mercy. Women who stood with quiet bravery in tales seldom told. Children whose names history forgot, but whose echoes linger gently in this softened realm. Each presence feels like a whisper, a memory, a testament to the idea that heroism is not always loud. Sometimes it is simple endurance, patience, love, sacrifice. The mist holds their stories carefully, as though unwilling to let any echo fade too quickly. You begin to walk through the soft expanse, surrounded by drifting figures whose stories shaped entire cultures. They don't crowd you. They don't reach for you. They simply move beside you in gentle rhythms, sharing the quiet space with you as though walking together on a calm evening road. The mist thickens, and the voices quiet further. You sense the edge of this realm approaching, the point where mortal legend gently hands the story back to the gods. You take one last look at the soft silhouettes fading behind you, feeling a warmth of connection. Their echoes are calm now, part of the endless tapestry of myth, softened by time into gentle light. As you step forward, the mist parts slowly, revealing a rising stone path leading toward a place where the air vibrates faintly with deeper resonance. Something ancient, something sacred, a place where futures once unfolded through whispers and smoke. The oracles are waiting. You move forward as the soft mist of the hero echoes thins behind you, giving way to a different quiet, one that hums not with memory, but with possibility. The air tingles faintly, as though charged with invisible threads stretching in every direction. This part of the world feels neither divine nor mortal. It feels like a threshold, a liminal seam where the present trembles against the edges of futures not yet formed. You sense it before you see it, the realm of oracles and quiet prophecies, where visions drift like smoke and truth arrives wrapped in riddles softer than breath. The stone path rises gently beneath your feet, spiraling upward along the inside of a massive cavern chamber. The walls curve around you in wide arcs, textured with ancient carvings, spirals, eyes, leaves, and flame-like shapes. Their meanings aren't clear, but they resonate in your chest as though whispering fragments of stories too old for language. A faint breeze curls around your ankles, carrying the smell of burnt laurel, warm earth, and something metallic, like the edge of a distant storm. Higher and higher the path leads you until it opens onto a stone balcony overlooking a chamber bathed in dim, amber light. The light doesn't come from torches. It rises in slow curls from braziers filled with smoldering herbs, laurel, incense resin, and myrrh, whose smoke drifts upward like restless spirits. The air is warm, thick, and sweet. It presses gently against your temples, quieting your thoughts the way bedtime does when you finally stop resisting sleep. Below you, voices murmur, not loud, not clear. They move like waves, overlapping, fading, returning. These are not people speaking. These are the lingering breaths of centuries of prophecy. The chamber remembers everything ever asked and everything ever answered. A slender stone staircase leads downward from your balcony into the central chamber. You descend slowly, tasting the warmth of the air as it brushes your lips. When your feet reach the chamber floor, the ground feels unexpectedly soft, carpeted in fine ash mixed with crushed laurel leaves that release a faint fragrance each time you step. In the center sits an ancient tripod throne, its 3 legs carved in swirling lines that mimic smoke rising. Upon the throne, a figure forms, not in full flesh, but in a wavering silhouette woven from scent, shadow, and ember light. Her outline pulses softly like a heartbeat. The Pythia, the oracle, or perhaps one of many oracles whose presence remains here, layered across centuries like translucent veils. She tilts her head slightly, attentive but not entirely focused on you, more like listening to something just behind your thoughts. Her voice, when it comes, is soft as drifting ash. It doesn't resolve into words. It comes as emotion, curiosity, calm, awareness. She watches you without looking directly at you, as though her eyes see through layers of time all at once. You step closer, the ash beneath you releasing more scent. The oracle's smoke rises and expands, swirling in patterns that shift too quickly to interpret. One moment you see the faint outline of a mountain peak. The next, the shape of an olive tree. Then the curve of a wave. Then a winding road disappearing into dusk. Prophecy isn't clear here. It's a tapestry woven from fragments and hints. No certainty, only possibility. Historians still argue over the nature of these visions. Some claim oracles inhaled volcanic vapors rising from fault lines, drifting them into trance-like states. Others believe the power was symbolic. The real wisdom came from years of training, intuition, and coded language. But here in this chamber, you sense something more delicate than either explanation. The visions feel like ripples on the surface of water, subtle movements triggered by the quiet touch of the divine. You reach the edge of the tripod, but you do not touch it. The oracle's presence leans forward slightly. The air thickens, warming against your skin. A faint hum vibrates in your chest, then in your fingertips. The smoke curls around you, forming shapes that drift into meaning. Not clear meaning, but emotional resonance. First shape, a small flame flickering in darkness. Second, a winding path through a forest. Third, a hand reaching toward falling petals. Fourth, a ripple on calm water. None of these are instructions. They're reminders. Symbols of transitions, of choices, of gentle inevitabilities. You feel the chamber's quiet suggestion. The world is shaped by small movements, not grand certainties. Even God's whisper, even fate's bend. A soft rustle draws your attention to the far side of the chamber, where shelves carved into stone hold countless clay tablets, some cracked, some intact. They have no inscriptions, at least none you can see. Yet you feel the presence of questions once pressed into their surfaces by the fingertips of people long gone. Their hopes, fears, desires linger like faint warmth. A small joke drifts across your thoughts. Imagine waiting months to consult the oracle only to receive a poetic riddle like, "Beware the chicken that walks backward." You wonder how many ancient heroes misinterpreted prophecies because they refused to admit they didn't understand metaphor. The oracle shifts again, and the smoke rising from the brazier spirals upward more rapidly. You sense layers of past voices swirling around her. Echoes of questions that shaped wars, journeys, and destinies. But the mood here is calm, not dramatic. The smoke folds around you like soft cloth, carrying with it the reminder that prophecy is never about knowing. It's about navigating uncertainty with awareness. She raises her hand, slowly, gracefully. The movement sends a ripple through the smoke, and images shift once more. You see a distant coast, a flicker of moonlight on gentle waves. Then the glow softens into something like twilight spread across the world. The images fade, leaving behind only warmth in your chest and a faint whisper. Continue. It is not a command. It is encouragement. The oracle lowers her hand. The smoke settles. Her silhouette softens, fading back into the warm air. You realize her purpose was not to give you answers, but to prepare you, to settle your thoughts before the final dusk of your journey. You take a step back. The chamber exhales softly. The murmuring voices quiet until you hear only your own breath. The path behind the tripod begins to glow faintly, illuminated by threads of golden white light that weave together like the beginning of dawn. Your senses sharpen. You feel a shift in the mythic world around you. One last dusk is approaching, the final horizon where gods, mortals, memories, and shadows settle into quiet twilight. You look back once more. The oracle's outline remains faintly visible, seated, serene, enveloped in drifting smoke. Watching, not predicting now, just witnessing. Then you turn toward the glowing path and begin to climb, feeling the world around you warm and soften as you rise toward the final mythic dusk waiting gently at the edge of the ancient Aegean. You follow the softly glowing path upward, the warmth from the oracle's chamber fading into a gentler, duskier tone. The light changes slowly, no longer gold, no longer silver, but a muted violet that deepens with every step, like the world preparing its final exhale of the night. The air cools to that perfect twilight temperature, neither warm nor cold, a balancing point between day and darkness. You breathe in, and even your breath feels different, slower, softer, as though aligning with the rhythm of the world itself. You've traveled through gods, depths, seasons, forests, tides, echoes, and visions. And now the journey brings you to its final horizon, the last dusk of this ancient Aegean mythscape. The path curves gently around a ridge, revealing a high plateau overlooking the sea far below. The water is darker now than when you first stepped into this world, almost black, but shimmering with faint specks of starlight scattered across its surface. The sky above is a soft gradient of violet melting into deep indigo, the last traces of color clinging to the edge of the world like a whispered farewell. This is not sunset. This is the moment after sunset, the quiet hour when light hasn't fully surrendered, and darkness hasn't fully claimed its place. A perfect meeting point, fitting for the final mythic dusk. You step onto the plateau, and the ground beneath your feet softens into pale, powdery sand. It crunches gently, the sound muted by the quiet of the world around you. The sea breeze rises, but it's calmer than the earlier winds, slow, rhythmic, brushing along your skin with the tenderness of a lullaby. The air tastes faintly of salt mixed with warm earth and a scent like crushed rosemary. It feels ancient, but familiar, like something your senses remember from a dream you thought you'd forgotten. As you walk, shapes begin to emerge at the edges of your vision, faint outlines of stories drifting like shadows across the twilight. They're not gods this time, not titans, not heroes. They're fragments, memories from your journey, echoes of everything that carried you here. You see the golden flicker of Athena's lantern, hovering just for a moment before dissolving into the dusk. You see the silver arc of Artemis's bow, tracing a quiet curve before fading. You see a soft glow of ocean turquoise, Poseidon's silent acknowledgement. You feel the cool shadow of Hades, steady and protective, lingering like a calm hand on your shoulder. You see Persephone's garden flicker into existence for one heartbeat, flowers glowing softly, then disappearing like petals carried off by wind. The dusk gathers these fragments, weaving them together in slow, gentle strokes, as though painting the twilight with the memory of your journey. A soft rustle brushes the sand behind you. You turn to see a faint silhouette, neither mortal nor divine, something like a guide formed from twilight itself. It has no distinct form, only a presence, a reminder that you are not alone at the end of this story. The figure steps beside you, not leading, not following, just walking with you as you move deeper into the dusk. Historians still argue whether myths were meant to teach, to warn, or simply to entertain. But here, at the edge of this twilight world, you realize myths do something else entirely. They accompany. They walk with you in the quiet places of your mind, offering companionship during the long nights when sleep drifts just out of reach. They don't demand belief. They ask only to be remembered, to be carried, to be felt. You step closer to the cliff's edge, where the sea spreads endlessly into the night. The waves below move in slow, gentle arcs, their surfaces catching faint reflections of starlight. The sound is soft, a muted rhythm, like fabric brushing against stone. The same rhythm that welcomed you at the beginning of this journey, now closing the circle. A few lone stars emerge overhead, their light sharp and steady. One twinkles brighter than the rest, and for a brief second, you think of Apollo's terrace, his warmth lingering even here in the cool dusk. Another star appears, faintly reddish, reminding you of Persephone's pomegranate seed glowing in her hand. The night sky becomes a map of memories. You walk a little further, and the ground rises into a small hill crowned with a single olive tree. Its bark weathered, its branches twisted into shapes that look like symbols. The leaves shimmer softly, dark green edged with silver. The tree feels like a quiet summation of Greece itself. Ancient, rooted, resilient, peaceful. You rest your hand lightly on its trunk, and the bark is warm. As you stand there, the breeze gathers gently around you, carrying the faintest echoes of laughter, of footsteps, of whispered prayers carried across centuries. Each sound is soft, like memory about to be dream. The world is quiet, so quiet you feel your own heartbeat aligning with the rhythm of distant waves. The silhouette beside you fades slowly, leaving only the whisper of its presence in the air. A small smile forms on your lips as a final joke drifts through your mind. If all these gods and heroes held a midnight meeting right now, they'd probably argue about who should speak first, and the olive tree would end up making the most sensible suggestion. The dusk deepens, rich and velvety, but still gentle. You feel no fear here, no uncertainty, only calm. A deep, slow calm that settles over your shoulders like a warm blanket. The kind of calm that tells you sleep is close now, soft, safe, and waiting. You take one last breath of the twilight air. The sea sighs below, the stars shimmer overhead, and the final mythic dusk closes gently around you like a storybook folding shut. The twilight around you begins to soften, its colors fading slowly into deep, velvety shades of night. The sounds grow quieter, gentler, as though the waves and wind have agreed to lower their voices for your sake. The last traces of myth melt into the air, leaving only the soothing rhythm of your breath and the soft cradle of darkness settling around you. Each moment stretches a little longer now, unhurried, as if time itself wants to help you unwind. The sky darkens into a calm, star-speckled canopy, the kind that invites your thoughts to drift lightly, like leaves on still water. The gentle breeze slows, brushing past you in long, steady exhales, easing whatever tension remains in your shoulders, your jaw, the space behind your eyes. Let the world feel distant here. Let everything feel slower, softer, warmer. You've walked through ancient forests, through moonlit tides, through quiet realms of gods and heroes. But now there is nothing left to explore, nothing left to understand, nothing left to do. This is your time to release each thought, one by one, until the only thing left is the soft hum of comfort. Feel your breath deepen. Let your muscles loosen. Imagine the ground beneath you warming slightly, supporting you fully. Imagine the faint glow of a distant lantern, its light dimming, until only the calm darkness remains. Your journey is complete. The myths rest now, and so can you.